welcome back to the Modern Firm Podcast. I'm John Mitchell, and I'm back here with Darren.
Hey, John. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm ready for warm weather, and
it's starting to happen.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
happening.
feeling it. It's happening. I'm excited to talk today about the Modern Firm Maturity Continuum. I don't know what it is about milestones or whatever you call them, moments in a maturity flow, whether it's the weight room, whether it's running, whether it's like just my own spiritual life, being able to say, hey, there's something to attain from where I am to where I want to be. And I that's what I'm excited about today, is to be able to identify really 5 levels of maturity inside of a modern firm that is based on data and based on a lot of time spent with firms.
Yeah, I think of it like a journey to becoming a modern firm.
That's a good word. Yeah.
And what we created were these 5 different levels along that journey or along that path that allowed a firm sort of to identify where they were at in the journey.
Yeah.
And then, in our 2024 technology survey, we benchmarked some numbers against that as well. And we actually found out, a lot of people might ask, why would I want to be a modern firm?
Yeah.
Right? Why not just stay wherever I'm at, right? What we learned was, some of the more modern firms, people that were farther along this technology business process journey, were making 39% more revenue per employee.
Yeah.
And if that's not motivation enough, I don't think we measured employee happiness.
Satisfaction.
But you gotta think that employee satisfaction was improved as well, potentially.
So you've been doing this for a really long time, and you've seen, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say thousands of firms.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you came up with the concept of the modern firm, did you think that 39% per employee was actually the end goal and was something that would be attainable? Is that a surprise to you?
I think when I first envisioned this, and it's been a number of years ago, it was generally to start with about lifestyle, which was not really giving your whole sort of work life, which was most of your life, to something that was just draining you.
Yeah.
I thought that work and life should work in concert. And that was really what the modern firm journey that I was starting to map out was all about. As I implemented it myself, inside my own firm, I realized that, wow, I could actually work a lot less and make a lot more money. And so, to a degree, it became also financial.
Yeah.
In addition to, having the ability to sort of balance the life that you want with your job.
I knew the answer to that question. I wanted our listeners to hear it, because I think very rarely in life do you get something where you get the motivation being good life and treating people well, and the finances follow it.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where, this is why I love the modern firm concept so much, is that as I get more modern, I begin to reduce the complexities. I begin to increase the amount of employee satisfaction and increase the revenue. And all of that begins to build on itself. And so as you think about these individual levels, to go from, I'll just go ahead and name them, follower to initiator to contender to collaborator to leader, there is this momentum that builds.
Yeah, and we just made those names up.
Yeah,
so
these aren't. Yeah, if these don't particularly resonate with you, it doesn't matter really.
Sorry.
It's not as much about the names of these as it is about seeing this progression and this, as you called it, this journey. But what we've seen is that as you go from like follower, which is this sense of disconnected software solutions, it's this sense of paper all over your firm, sense of taking whoever comes in.
Yeah, it's a real traditionally run firm. Like to your point, it didn't really. They really don't have the concept of like productizing their offerings.
Yeah.
The processes aren't in place to more efficiently and effectively deliver those items. The technology hasn't necessarily been all the way thought through or connected. And so just, I think common sense would tell you that practice is going to be less efficient and make less money. Now, we proved that to be the case, but I'm just saying it just makes sense that a business operating like that may feel a little bit antiquated today.
Yeah. Antiquated is a good word. I also just think like inconsistent and unintentional.
Unintentional is a great word. I feel like there's a lot of friction in that business.
Yeah.
Friction with working with customers, friction with working among the team, just kind of friction.
Yeah. And in the sense of just surviving, you're just going into work and taking whatever comes in and trying to get through the day.
Yeah. It's not that you're not financially doing well, because you probably are, right? It's that you can create a better work life, you can create a better place for your employees, and you can increase your revenues as you move along the continuum.
Yeah, so we go from this idea of follower into what we called initiator. And I kind of do like this term because, the years we've spent with accounting firms in a membership organization, they come to us and there is like this initiation. There's this moment of them going, I want things to be different.
Yeah.
I see things can be different. We used to have a set of slides that kind of painted a picture for the future, and people would leave that moment seeing for the first time that it doesn't have to be the way it is. And the initiator sees that there is a new way and there's a potentially different way to do it.
I think, John, as I look over the years, most of the firms that we sort of saw along the road were probably followers.
Yeah.
People looking for a new way. Many were probably initiators as well. So they fell into those two categories, and they were looking for a way to better their firm. And these two categories are pretty normal.
Yeah.
To see your firm in. So and we can describe what an initiator looks like. The firms that I saw that were really initiators were firms that, had maybe bought into a suite of software.
Yeah.
Whether it was Thomson or CCH or Intuit or Drake. And so they had a little bit more in the way of connected technology solutions, but they hadn't standardized all of their processes. They hadn't really thought about what a great customer experience is all about. They hadn't sort of created this idea of productizing their offerings so that they could leverage them better. They had a little bit more from the standpoint of connected technology. There was still a lot of the technology that's still disconnected in this level.
Yeah.
But they at least had their, maybe their tax and their practice management and their client accounting to a degree was connected.
Yeah. The survey didn't really prove this out in any way, but I have a hunch that people in this stage, this initiator stage, just from all the years of working with firms, there may be some loneliness here. It's almost like the leader knows it's going to be different. The firm owner knows it could be different. They see technology, they go out by themselves to events, and they try to bring back energy, and it kind of falls flat on the firm. Mm-hmm. The firm is in one survival mode, and the leader is a little ahead. Yeah. They may read, and I know you don't want to toot your own horn, but The Intentional Accountant was a very important...
I think it's the best book I've ever read.
Okay, maybe you do want to toot your own horn a little bit. So Darren wrote a book called The Intentional Accountant. If you haven't read it, it was written a long time ago, and I don't know the last time you've read it, but I read it a couple months ago. Andy and I both read it, and we talked to each other about it, about how much of it is still apropos to what's going on. But this is a book that people came to us early on because they read this book and they resonated. It was like there is something here, but I can't convince my firm or my potentially my partner that this is where we need to go. There's a little bit of loneliness often in the initiator.
I think one of the things I would say, not speaking to the intentional accountant right now, but things have been speeding up.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably sense that in your own life if you're thinking about technology in any way, or the way you leverage technology, or the way businesses operate, things are speeding up and they're happening faster. And so I think more and more people are feeling a little left out of maybe, the speed at which things are changing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the followers and initiators probably feel that a little bit.
Left behind.
And your choices are kind of like, I'm really late in my career. Do I just coast this out? Because, you see things changing.
Yeah.
You read LinkedIn, you read something else, a book. You see things changing. You see things could be different. But maybe you're thinking, I don't know that I have the energy, or the desire, or the passion, to make changes in my firm. And so, one of the questions I would pose to you is, by not making the investments to change, to evolve, to stay more current, you're probably giving up value when you go to, sell your firm.
Yeah.
Or just exit your firm in any way. That's probably what you're giving up. But if your goal is just to write it out and not worry about that, then those are just choices we see firms make.
Yeah. So between follower and initiator, there is in the 50% of our respondents.
Yeah, I think
between those two, right?
Almost 60.
About 60%.
Yeah, 59%.
I didn't do the math well,
looks
shocker.
like to me.
Yeah, something like that. The majority of our audience, or at least the majority of the people that took this survey, find themselves in either a follower or initiator.
Yeah, we're not just saying that we think it's 60%. These are people who self-identified as a follower or initiator, and it was 59%.
Yeah. So the third level that we have is we call contender, and this is the next most highest percentage group of people from the surveys. 25% say that they consider themselves to be a contender, which is a more well-defined tech stack, probably in the cloud, probably technically driven. People that are keeping up with what's next, frustrated with their current tech stack probably, and looking to see what's next, maybe making some changes, but overall have become a little more intentional, especially about their technologies.
Yeah, I think as we look at the whole maturity continuum, there's 5 levels. I don't think we said that, but there's 5 levels. So the contender finds themselves right in the middle, right? So at level 3. So it's probably it feels like a lot of firms that we see now kind of fall into this category. They're embracing more technology.
Yeah.
They understand the concept of productizing some of their offerings and standardizing their tech stack, and they're really moving along. And it's a pretty good firm, and they've developed this clarity around sort of what they want to sell.
Yeah, and who their client is.
Yeah. And like I said, 25% of firms self-identified with that's where they're at.
Yeah.
But as we really start talking, John, about the next 2 levels, the last 2 levels, that's where we see the gap in revenue.
Yeah.
That's where we really see, there's a gap in revenue. You're making more money, when you fall into the contender level, but that 39% more revenue is really in the next couple levels. So there is something more, right? I guess is what I want to say. There is something more for a firm to do than just get their tech stack organized and just productize their offerings. To me, that's like table stakes at this point, which is why it puts it really right in the middle. Does that make sense?
It does. The contender space, for some reason, I know it's only 25% of the respondents, but it feels like the majority of the people that I talk to on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because they've been a member of ours for a while, or they've been around for a while, and they've probably been on this journey for a while. So when I think of them, I also think of people who have yet to figure out the work-life part of this. A lot of people who are burnout or just tired. Maybe they've got their tech staff defined. Maybe they do have their clients defined and they've got some clarity, but they just haven't created that sense of freedom in their firm. They haven't created that sense of boundaries. And so from a staffing perspective, there's still anxiety, there's still a lot of angst, and maybe even a lot of turnover at this level. It's when you go from contender to collaborator that things begin to really clear up.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw is only 14% of people sort of, self-identified themselves as a collaborator.
Yeah.
But I think the difference between being a contender and a collaborator, John, is when as a contender, you may know what your products are.
Mm-hmm.
As a collaborator, you're selling the right products and getting the right clients buying those products.
Yes.
And you have those processes and procedures in place that
pricing
and packaging that you're really delivering these more at scale with less friction is what you see. It's one thing to really know your tech stack and to know what you want to sell and know who an ideal client is versus, the next level up at collaborator. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You've said that, hey, I want all of my clients to be in a digital cloud-based environment. I want them to deliver documents to me digitally. All my clients, not just a handful or not just the majority.
And you've been through the pain of transitioning them.
And you've transitioned all of this. So they've taken that business model, in my mind, of the contender, and now they're really executing on it. Right?
That's well said.
Yeah. I mean, we were calling it smart client management. You're really executing on your business model.
Yeah. The thing that I always think about with these last two levels, it starts with collaborator, is this sense of confidence. And I don't mean that in an arrogance way. I mean, like, we know who we are now. It's almost like when you meet a grown-up and you go, oh, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to take clients that aren't in your ideal client base. You don't have to charge people $300 for a 1040. You can do this.
Yeah, I think what I hear you saying is, and maybe you just said it, is the confidence.
It's just confidence that comes with this sense of...
Well, that demand is greater than supply.
Yes, that's
right?
what I mean.
And that you are now, you don't have to take everything that comes along.
Yeah.
You can craft your business model.
Yeah.
And execute on that. And I think the really, really good firms today are collaborators.
Yeah.
I think that's what we see. I mean, there is a next level, but I think the really good firms that we see today are collaborators. The last level we can talk about is what we would call a leader. So then the question is, what's the difference between a collaborator and a real leader firm?
Yeah.
And this starts getting into going, deeper with all your clients, understanding how to holistically serve a customer, and having the technologies and the data organized in such a way that you can do that, where you become really proactive in serving customers, and you're really selling, the best offerings in the space.
Makes a lot of sense. The beginning of this conversation, we talked about this sense of journey and how it's somehow you both get your life back and you make more money at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think this is partly why when you're hustling out there for new customers, there's this sense of friction always. And onboarding someone, there's this sense of tension with getting to know them. But when you realize that where your boundaries are and you go deeper, instead of the phrase that one of our members used recently was, instead of being a mile wide and an inch deep, you choose to go deeper with the people that you already know, love you, care for you, and you
with your ideal customer.
With your ideal customer.
Right.
And now you are, I think of this leader, it's only 2% of our survey of respondents, but I think of this as very rare, but you do encounter this in accounting, and you also encounter it out in life every now and then.
These seem to be the most valuable firms
yes.
On the market. So you wonder, why would I want to do this? Well, you're making more money per employee, but the value of your firm, somebody else that would desire to own that at some point, would be much, much greater. As I step back and listen to you a little bit, John, and think about the continuum, it feels like, where we started was a business that operates a little bit more out of fear. Fear that this is going to be the last customer that's ever going to come by, or fear that this client's not going to, evolve to the business model I want them to go to, or fear of change.
Yeah.
Versus, we use the word confidence on the leader side of this, having the confidence to run your business, to operate it at a very high level with ideal customers. And it feels like this continuum is sort of the journey from, having less confidence to being really confident about your business.
I think that's profound. I also think that it's about entrepreneurship. I think about the bottom end of the spectrum are people who don't feel like entrepreneurs. They don't feel like they're a part of the ongoing creation of the things around them. They feel like they're surviving and that they're just a transaction in their life. Every client becomes a transaction. Every day just becomes a survival moment. And as you move up this maturity continuum, you end up feeling a little more like you're a part of something. I'm a part of the ongoing creation and betterment of small businesses around me. Yeah. I'm a part, I think, in the best firms, I'm a part of the ongoing betterment of the accounting profession.
Yeah, you're a leader. You're a creator.
You're leading,
I love it.
So when it comes to the follower and leader thing, again, we just made these things up. You call them whatever you want. If they offend you, sorry. But I think the idea of a maturity continuum is about going from this unintentional, fearful thing to something that is on my terms, that is mine, and that I have created, and now I'm a part of bettering the things around me.
Yeah, I love it.
It's good stuff. Well, wherever you fall on the maturity continuum, hope you keep coming back and keep joining us for the Modern Firm podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Shane.